It's that Z, no, she must flow. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's that Z.
What is up, YouTube? As the intro told you, this is Kyle Drives here. We're going to be replacing hand warmers on a snowmobile. And for today's video, I'm going to be using my 99 RMK 700, which is the blue sled in here. I'm working on both of them today. But I'm going to be using a voiceover because the video or the audio I shot during me actually working on the sled was not good. And I cut out a lot of parts of the video. So I'll be using the Kimpex hand warmers. I found them on DennisKirk.com. You can get pretty much any hand warmer should work. But let's get started right away. So for this video, I already kind of replaced it on the right hand warmer. For that one, there's just like 4 screws you have to take out. I had to break the hand warmer because otherwise you can't pull it through. So you're pretty much going to have to replace it. But now I'm going to be doing the one on the left side, which is the brake side. And I'm going to take this little box apart here. There's just 4 screws. Once I get it done, then we can work on the actual getting the heater off. But I will explain in a little bit. We're going to use the power wire from that's going towards this little box. It's like the light switch and the hand warmer switch and stuff. We're going to be using the power from that to power our new grips, and we're going to need a different switch just because how the Kimpex is set up, and it comes with a switch, so that's good. But the reason why is there's 3 wires coming out of the stock hand warmers on the 99 RMK, but the Kimpex only has 2 coming out of the actual warmer itself. So we're going to be using the switch. I'm going to mount it on this sled right next to the ignition, the ignition. But if you see here, there's 2 clips. The power wire is going to be the 3rd one from the farthest, like if it's on the sled, if all the way to the left, it's going to be the 3rd one in. So on this sled, I think it was like a lime green color, and that will be the one we are using for the power. Okay, and then here we're just going to be heating it up, heating the hand grip up with a heat gun, and then we're going to take a screwdriver. And we're going to work the screwdriver around the grip just to help break up some of that glue. And then once we got that all broken apart, we're going to take, and we should just slide right off. You can twist it a little bit. I'm saving my grips, so I was trying to be a little careful without poking the screwdriver through the grip. But the grip came off, all right. And then now to get the actual old hand warmer off, there's different ways. You could probably try to heat it up a little bit just to help get that glue off, have the glue stick to the actual hand warmer, because I was sitting there scrubbing all the glue off for quite a while, and I had to cut a lot of the video out here. I took channel locks just to pull it off, and when you guys are installing the new grips, the wires on the left side, if you have a sled like mine, have to be at the bottom, and on the right side, on the throttle side, the wires have to be coming out the top of the hand warmer. That's just because how they work with the console system on the sled. But match whatever your sled had from stock. That'd be the best way to look at it. But once we get the hand warmer off, I'm just using channel locks here, like I said before, just to peel that warmer back. And there's going to be a lot of residue on it. So we're going to be using anything from sandpaper to a file. And then at the end, I used a little bit of brake cleaner. I'm just doing one side today because otherwise the video would be like 25 minutes long. We're not going to do that. So if you guys have any questions, just shoot it in the comments, and I can try to help you out. I might even be able to send you a video of me actually doing it if you really need it. But on the other side, I had where the wires came into the warmer, I just broke them off and pulled them through. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get the warmer off, the old warmer. You could just cut the wires too if that's what you want. I wouldn't suggest saving the old hand warmers. You can save them as backup, but when I took it apart, I doubt they'd work again with me putting the screwdriver in the grip. Here is just me rubbing some sandpaper on the grip, trying to get all that glue off. It took me quite a while, but using a file helped too. Just doing anything. It leaves the handlebar a little scratched up, so if you're worried about rusting, you can just take some primer and use the primer to just cover up the bare metal and help with rusting. But then you're going to want to make that sit for a while just so it gives it time to actually bond to the metal and so it's not wet when you're putting the hand warmer on if you choose to use primer. So once you get all the glue off, I just took some brake cleaner and just to help clean it a little bit. This is after you clean it, I'd let the brake cleaner dry, and then once the brake cleaner's all dried off of there, you can prime it. But I'm not going to prime it. I'm not too worried about it. If my bars rust through, I will just buy new bars. Not too big of a deal for me. But once we get, I'm just sizing up the hand warmer here, and we're going to put it kind of close to the end. So this is where we actually get the hand warmer on. Like I said before, on my sled, the left side or the brake side, the wires come from the bottom. So it's it feels like you're putting it on upside down, but you're really not. That's how it's supposed to be. So just peel the coating back or the little cover back on the sticky side. Put the wires on the bottom and wrap it around. It's pretty self-explanatory. I put it about like a 1/4 inch from the end, but whatever works best on your sled. I actually also did it on my 2005 RMK, and these hand warmers were a little bit long, but I made it work anyway. And they do heat pretty well. Not as good as stock, but I got them for pretty cheap, so it's all right. And then once you got the hand warmer on, I would suggest taking some electrical tape and putting it around both ends like you see in the video here. It just helps when you're sliding the grip on. It helps make sure the warmers actually stick to the bar and they're not going to come out or slide around. And it also helps just kind of protect the wires from being pinched. You know, it just gives it an extra layer. And then I'm actually showing you how to slide the grip on the right side of the snowmobile. You're just going to put some shoe glue on it. It's a good way. It helps it slide on. Plus, once it's dry, it bonds really well to the rubber of the hand grip. I just used my finger to smooth it around. It gets a little sticky, but it's worth it. I mean, this stuff will hold your grip on. And then once you got it all figured out, all shoe glued up, you can just take the grip and should slide right on. I wasn't able to get the little console thing apart, like where the kill switch is and the throttle is on the right side, but I did take the left side apart, and I would suggest putting the hand grip on before you put it back together. That just helps with making sure everything's all right and everything's where it's supposed to be. Once the hand grip's on, you can kind of put everything back together a little bit. So that's kind of what I do next here. I would hope you'd be able to figure everything out. Like I said, if you can't, just shoot me a message in the comments or something, and I can help you out. But here, I'm just putting I got the grip on now. I'm just putting that left side back together. Again, that third wire from like where I'm standing in the video, so the third wire from the left side of the sled is going to be our power, and we're going to have to hook that up to get the power to the grips. Now, you don't hook it up directly to the grips, but what you do is you hook it up to the switch, and there's going to be just one wire that you have to hook up to the power, and then one wire from each of the grips to the switch. Now that you get this together, it's just 4 screws. It should be pretty easy. I had a little bit of trouble with it, but I think my screws were stripped out a little bit, and I actually only had 3 screws. There was 1 missing. This sled's a little beat up and it needs some work, but I started with the hand warmers. You know, got to keep your hands warm. And if you guys are struggling and you're watching this video before you do the hand grips, I'm going to be using a T25 here. That's what size the screws are holding this console. I call it a console. Little switches and everything. There's 4 T25s holding it together. And once you get that all together, you're going to run the power wire for the switch through the hole on the console, on the dash there, and solder it on to the power wire that you just match the colors up from that third wire from the left and that little box, and solder it on. I just stripped a little bit of the coating and then tinned it with a soldering gun. You can, if you don't want to solder, what you can do is snip the wire higher up and just twist them together, or I would suggest using like a little crimp tool and a crimp connection and crimp it together, and then if you want to electrical tape it up to make sure everything's sealed up good. It's going to be covered up by, there's a little thing that goes over all these wires, but you know, it's always good to have an extra layer. And then once you get it tinned, which tinning is just dripping a little bit of solder on each side, on the wire side plus the spot you're soldering it to, just to get it a little started, just to have some more solder on there, and it's easier to solder it. But once you get that tin, you can run that wire, the power wire, through that little hole in the dash and solder them together, and then you should have good power. I wrapped it up with electrical tape. I also use liquid electrical tape in this video. I used to like it. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I haven't used it in a while except in this video. So if you guys think you can do it, that's great. I would maybe suggest using just regular electrical tape actually. It just seems like you might have to put it a little more on than you'd like, but it causes less of a mess. That liquid electrical tape gets everywhere. But once you got it soldered, like I'm doing in the video here, you should be able to just wrap that up, and then you'll have power. Most of our wires are going to be either around the handlebars kind of, or under the dash in like the engine cavity. So you really shouldn't see any wires actually, other than just right next to the warmers themselves. But my test for seeing if it's a good solder is that I can give it a good tug, not like, you know, trying to rip the whole wire apart, but just giving it a decent tug, and if it holds, I think that's a good solder. It's going to have good connection and should be good. I just find the electrical tape there, wrap it up. You can do it like that. If you wanna shrink wrap it, you can shrink wrap it. If you want to use liquid electrical tape, you can do that too. I wouldn't suggest liquid electrical tape here, but just wrapping it up, getting it covered, no bare wires showing. Now after this, we're going to take, there's two wires going to each warmer, and we're going to take one from each side, and we're going to run it to the switch, all right? So, and then we're going to solder that one wire from each side onto the middle peg of the switch. Now, if you didn't buy the Kimpex one, it might be a little different. You might want to look at your directions for that. Like I said, I'm using the Kimpex from Dennis Kirk. Now I'm drilling my half-inch hole here for the switch to sit in. I actually didn't have a half-inch, so I used a 3/8 and just kind of hogged it out, rubbing a thing back and forth. You got to be careful so you don't hook any wires. But once you got it in there, I was just checking to make sure it fits, and then you should be good to solder the power wires one from each hand warmer onto the middle peg. Faster way here, instead of soldering, you could just use another crimp, like I was saying before, just a crimp end, just slide it on. I did that actually on my 2005 RMK, the white one sitting right next to this sled. It was a lot faster. It's not going to make as good as connection as soldering, but like I said, it's a lot faster, and it works probably just as well. And for this video, so one wire from each hand warmer goes to the power, like I'm showing you here, to the switch. And then the other wire goes to a ground, common ground, so you hook them both up to the ground. And what I did, the old hand warmers were grounded through a brown wire on those little plugs that the hand warmers were plugged into. I just soldered the wires directly to the plug. And I mean, it's a little bit of a cheat way. It saved me some time. You could also do kind of that crimp method where you cut the wire, strip it, and crimp the old ground wire to the ground wire on the hand warmers. Both are kind of a cheat way. If you really want to do it right, you would run them back through into the dash or into the engine compartment somewhere, and make a new ground or attach it to an old ground underneath there with just one of those little loops. But my method works. I took both of these sleds out for a ride, and they both heat up. Like I said, they weren't the best. They weren't as good as the stock ones, but they definitely kept my hands warm. I'm not riding in negative 30-degree weather. I'm riding in anywhere from 0 to probably 35. Once it gets over 35, you're kind of a little warm for your sleds. But yeah, so my hands stayed warm. I'm not wearing real thin gloves, but I'm wearing snowmobiling gloves. So if you got those, you should be good with these hand warmers. And this method, like obviously you have to have hand warmers already on there. But if you don't have hand warmers on there, you can just hook it up to the yellow stator wire, and that should be your power instead of kind of piggybacking it like I did. And here, this is just me showing how you hook up that ground wire. The brown's coming into that little peg there, and I just soldered the new wire onto that peg. And I do the same thing on the other side here. And once you guys are all done with soldering or crimping, whatever you're doing to hook everything up, just run some electrical tape around everything here, and make sure everything's closed up real tight and good, so no water can short it out, or make sure there's no bare wires anywhere showing. And once you're done with that, you can just kind of throw everything back together. Should be good to go. Keep your hands warm for the whole season and call it good. But just a little where I'm ending the video here. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. I'll try to keep an eye on it. I'm going to school, so I don't have a ton of time in the world, but I will try to keep you guys updated. I got some other videos. If you check them out, I got 3-wheeler videos. I got a rare Manco 3-wheeler. But if you guys like this video, please like it. And if you want to keep in touch with what I'm doing, and if you want to follow my rebuild on that 3-wheeler, just hit the subscribe button there, and just keep an eye on my channel. I'll try to post videos on a regular basis. I'm going to try, but no guarantees. And thank you guys. Hope you liked the video. Hope it helped. And keep riding. Make sure those hands stay warm too.